Morning everybody. The usual coronavirus chaos in the household. It's okay, buddy. The wife's out for a run. I'm doing some emails, got some phone calls today, trying to get the legal team on with the deal because it's dragging now, and I just thought I'd give you a real view of what home working, trying to set up your own company in the middle of coronavirus actually looks like. So throughout the day I'll record some other stuff and hopefully it's interesting, and I'll walk you through some of the designs and the stock and the products that we're hoping to put into the shop. But at the moment we're kind of in the agreed a deal in principle, offer's been accepted, so I'm hoping today we're actually going to get the timeline for the exchange. So trying to start work and do some emails, and coronavirus homeschooling kicks in. As you can see, my daughter's decided that she wants to take part in the video, and Andy doesn't need to be doing his emails right now, so the lawyer's going to have to wait. So I thought I'd share with you some of the designs of the shop. As I'm chatting now, you'll think, it's a shop, do I really care? Maybe you don't, but hopefully you can humour me in that the shop is the vehicle for me to have this conversation with you. So we've gone for the name Smithton's Food Market, which is a combination of my name and my business partners. Hopefully what the branding showing you is that we do what we say on the tin. We're trying to look like a classic British business that feels high-end, feels local and feels like your place to shop. And I think that's been really important, and that came back to what was our initial vision. And the vision, as I've walked you through about that kind of local, provincial, quality-based business, is I think with that we've tried to go for colours that represent that, and the little leaf that you see on the emblem is kind of a nod to the environment. And maybe it's not for everyone, and you don't always have to love what the brand looks like, it's always preferable, but I think it's important that the brand visually represents what you embody once you enter that shop, that website, whatever it is that your trade is. I think because that's the window to your business, isn't it? So anyone that's driving past has got to look at that and think, regardless of what product's in it, are they my kind of business or are they not? And I think hopefully the branding that we've picked represents that. I believe the gap in the market is local level commerce, where you've got your big supermarkets, you've got corner shop, convenience store type things, and farm shops. But there's no one that offers the farm shop provenance with the convenience of being on a local parade. So ultimately the objective for me was always about whatever I go into, and I've done esports, catering, Lego, and now opening a retail shop, is be passionate about the thing that you're going to go and do and make yourself an expert, because the only person you're fooling if you don't put the energy in is yourself. The aim of the shop really is to create, for where I live and wherever I open future shops, all being well that there are future shops, is provenance and health. So everything isn't going to be vegetarian or low fat, but wherever possible it will be free from plastic. We'll try and be as carbon neutral as possible, so it's a big thing we're asking. We're only working with certainly the bigger suppliers if they're carbon neutral. I'd say 80% of the products won't contain any plastic, but also it needs to be not up its own arse. Joe Public needs to be able to go in that shop and not feel that it's too hippie. It needs to have good, wholesome product that is done in a cognizant way of both health and the environment, and then we'll offer a small sit-in once we've sorted out the licensing food business essentially, so it'll be products that you can't source in supermarkets, and I think right now the current product list is looking like 95% you're going to struggle to source from a generic supermarket. But then we'll take those produce, because most of it's fresh, and then any of the meals that we make either for people to take home or for people to eat in the business itself will be made from fresh produce made by ourselves. So any business that I go into for me is always about the scale. So the kind of concept that I'm pushing on with now is, as a vegetarian, someone with chronic health condition that's been in and out of hospital for years, as I mentioned previously, I've always had a big belief in be careful what you put in your body. And for me, I think there is a gap in the market. But to talk to the point earlier, it's because I know what I want it to be. There is a clear strategy that we will be the premium end of the food market. We will be environmentally friendly, health conscious, low impact, as close as we can to things like carbon neutral, removing plastics. And unfortunately, until the world becomes that way, you pay a premium for things like that. And whilst that isn't for everybody, there's no point, and I will keep using this phrase, there's no point boiling the ocean. So we're not. We're going to be what we are, do what we say on the tin, and myself and my business partner, there'll be a poster of us in the shop. Not because we're arrogant, but because it will be a statement of our intent. Our intent being the kind of practices that I talked about, because actually we want you to know who we are and that we're taking this seriously. And I can tell you, Adrian makes the cheese. I can tell you that Emma is the person we talk to from a local butcher's for our meat. And I think those things are super important to me. And I'm not saying that everybody feels the way I feel, but if you talk about the business in a generic sense, that is our strategy. That is essentially the vision of our company. Is that even if we opened one in Bolton, that we wouldn't use the suppliers that we use here where I live. We'd use ones from within, ideally, the kind of radius we've set is 50 miles, but at the moment quite a lot of the products are probably from within 10, 12 miles of where I live, which I think for me, as a customer, I'm happy to pay a slightly larger premium to know that I'm supporting local businesses and a business that cares about the environment. So I think when I talk about strategy and kind of practicing what you preach and making sure you follow through on those things, that has made supply chain harder. That has made the shop design harder, because I've got to allow for fresh produce and not just bagged plastics that can go all over shelves. It's going to cost more for the fit out, it's going to cost more for the product, and it will be more perishable because of that. But if you're going to be something, you've got to be it, because people are wise, people will see through that. And I think that'd be one thing I encourage anyone, whether you're a consultant, run a company, you create products, ensure you deliver on your objective. Business doesn't happen overnight. That's one thing I learned very early on, and even more so doing this transaction now. That the offer was accepted a number of months ago, and the solicitors have had the leases and all sorts of stuff exchanged for a while. The price is agreed, money has changed hands, not the full value, but ultimately what takes the time now is going through all the details of the sales contract and the leases, because we're also I have some property where I'm a landlord, but actually with this shop comes other properties. So it's further complicated by, it's a lease business, we're not buying the freehold of the business unfortunately, which would have been lovely, but it's not possible. That's a bit of advice to anyone if you're starting a company and you can take the freehold. You know, it's a leasehold, and we originally were, so at the time of recording this, we're kind of mid-end of March, and we were aiming originally to be doing the shop fitting starting next week and trading from late April. We're going to be miles away from that. I think even without coronavirus it would have been a stretch, but now coronavirus has happened, I think ultimately our ambition is to be trading by some time in June. So I think that's the other thing I'd say to anyone watching is you can have all the best laid plans. We have a matrix where each week we aim to knock over activities and keep things going at a certain pace, but ultimately you're not in control. So I think always make sure that you've allowed for some lag, some overrun, which we had, and I think we've managed to cash flow the projects and ourselves in a way that if it opens in June, July, August, September, there is no disaster for us, which I think I'm delighted about. There's obviously the frustration, we want to get going, but ultimately rushing things through at times you can then regret at the end because you make sloppy mistakes because you didn't give yourself a chance to think about it. So probably 6 months in at this point to, I don't know where you buy carrots from, so what do? I ring 10 different people that sell carrots and work out who makes the best ones, what's the right price for a carrot, and we'll probably stock somewhere between 300 and 400 items or SKUs. So if you think about that per category, it shows the kind of work that goes on behind the scenes. So I think that's one thing that's also taught me is in getting ready. We found the suppliers before the exchange has completed. Done the same with uniforms, designs. We've essentially created the business now. It just doesn't have a premises to go in. And I think that's one thing that I've learned that's actually quite effective is a lot of people put things off. Once I've done this, that's when I'll do that. Actually, preparation and planning has been the key for us, and hopefully it means that once we open, neither of us have run a retail business, and I'm sure there'll be challenges, but at least because we've put as good a plans as we can at this stage in place, we're able to react once we're into the shop and deliveries aren't made and we can't get floats in time, or the products that we've picked are invariably going to be wrong and we'll be trading them out for other products as we go. But at least we're not then trying to work out what equipment should we buy, what does the uniform need to look like, how do we go about recruiting the staff. All those things have been done, so we've kind of created an off-the-shelf solution. And some of it will be wrong, it always is in business, but we'll react to those situations because we'll have the time. I want to bring it back to the context of for other people. I'm sure you can take heed of some of what I'm saying, and what, particularly in this time when we're all working from home, to actually reassess what do I do, how do I do it, do I feel in control, can I determine the outcomes for myself. Obviously you cannot control everything, but if you plan for stuff and you have a plan A and a plan B and you immerse yourself in what you are doing, you actually find that ultimately you can control the outcomes and the situations that you go into much more, because you're not passive in it. You're actually controlling the process because there's a framework that you're working to, and even if that framework turns out to be slightly incorrect, it's still a guiding principle that everybody's working to. Stay safe. Wash your hands, socially distance, as I said in the last video. Don't be a dickhead, just stay in the house. That's all we've been asked to do, so just do it, stay in the house. But hopefully you like, subscribe, watch the channel. Please feedback, I've never done this before, and if there's stuff you want me to talk about, please say, because I'd love to be able to kind of service a community and get something going together. So take care, see you in the next one. Bye.